Quick like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. My name is Julian. I'm 39 years old, and I work as a senior software architect for DataStream Solutions in Denver, Colorado. I've spent the last 17 years writing code, building systems, and solving problems that most people don't even know exist. I make good money, around $185,000 a year, and I've been smart with it. Investments, savings, a retirement fund that's on track for early retirement at 55. I thought my wife Rebecca and I were building toward that future together. Turns out she was building toward a different future. With a personal trainer named Chad who thought he'd won the lottery when he stole another man's wife. He hadn't won anything. He'd inherited a financial disaster, and I made sure he knew it. Rebecca and I met 12 years ago at a friend's wedding in Boulder. She was working as a dental hygienist, and I was already established in my career. We connected over our mutual hatred of wedding cake and love of hiking. Within a year, we were engaged. Within 2, we were married. The first 8 years were solid. We bought a house in the Highlands neighborhood, traveled when we could, talked about maybe having kids someday. Rebecca worked full-time at a dental practice downtown, and we split expenses fairly. I paid the mortgage and utilities. She covered groceries and her car payment. It worked. Then 4 years ago, Rebecca decided she wanted to get serious about fitness. She joined an expensive gym in Cherry Creek, $189 a month for the premium membership. Said she wanted to work with a personal trainer to really transform her body. The trainer's name was Chad Brennan, 28 years old, all muscles and confidence, with an Instagram full of shirtless workout photos and inspirational quotes about grinding and winning. Rebecca started training with Chad 3 times a week, then 4 times. Then she added weekend group sessions that somehow only ever included her. I noticed the changes. She started dressing differently, more fitted clothes, more makeup, more attention to appearance. She'd check her phone constantly and smile at messages she wouldn't let me see. She'd come home from the gym glowing with energy she never seemed to have for me. "How was your workout?" I'd ask. "Great. Chad's really pushing me. I can already see results." I could see results too, just not the kind she was talking about. The distance between us grew wider every month. Conversations became superficial. Sex became rare, then non-existent. She was always tired, always busy, always had somewhere else to be. "I'm going to a nutrition seminar with some people from the gym," she'd say. Or, "Chad's hosting a group workout in the mountains this weekend." Or, "The gym is having a late-night training session for serious clients." Every excuse, every lie, and I believe them because I want to believe them. Then one night, everything changed. It was a Thursday in late September. Rebecca said she was going to a special evening training session. She left the house at 7, dressed in expensive workout clothes I'd never seen before. I had a work deadline, so I planned to be up late anyway. But around 9, I realized I'd left my laptop charger at the office. My phone was almost dead, and I needed to finish a code review. Rebecca's laptop was in the living room. We'd always had each other's passwords, never had a reason not to. I opened to check my work email. That's when I saw she was still logged into her Instagram messages. The chat thread at the top was with someone named Chad_FitLife. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't, but my gut told me I needed to see. I clicked. What I found made my blood run cold. Months of messages. Hundreds of them. Starting over a year ago. "Chad, you looked incredible today. That body is a work of art." "Rebecca, stop. You're making me blush," smiling face with smiling eyes. "Chad, I'm serious. Your husband is a lucky man. If you were mine, I'd never let you out of my sight. Rebecca, if I were yours, I'd never want to leave." I scrolled further. The messages got more explicit. Photos I won't describe. Plans to meet at hotels. Conversations about how Rebecca was unhappy in her marriage, how I didn't appreciate her, how Chad made her feel alive in ways I never could. Then I found the message from 3 days ago. "Rebecca, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Living a lie. Being with him when all I want is you. Chad, then leave him. You deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. Rebecca, it's not that simple. There's the house, the finances, everything we've built together. Chad, so take half of it. That's what you're entitled to. Divorce him, get what's yours, and start fresh with me. We could build something real. Rebecca, You really want that? A life together? Chad, baby, I've wanted that since the day I met you. You're my dream woman. Successful, beautiful, strong. The total package. Rebecca, what about money? Starting over is expensive. Chad, I'm building my fitness empire. Once my online coaching program takes off, we'll be set. Plus you'll have whatever you get from the divorce. We'll be fine. I sat there staring at the screen, reading those words over and over. Chad thought Rebecca was successful, thought she had money, thought divorcing me would set them up financially. He had no idea what Rebecca had been hiding. Because I've been doing some investigating of my own over the past few months. It started when I noticed charges on our joint credit card that didn't make sense. The card was supposed to be for household expenses only, groceries, utilities, that kind of thing. But the balance had been creeping up. $3,000 one month, $4,500 the next, then $6,200. I pulled the statements and started going through them line by line. There were charges I didn't recognize. Lululemon, $780. Sephora, $340. A boutique in Cherry Creek, $1,200. Restaurants I'd never been to. Bars downtown. A weekend at a resort in Breckenridge that I definitely hadn't gone on. I went back further. Found the same pattern going back 18 months. Rebecca had been running up our joint credit card, the one I paid off every month without looking at the details, to the tune of about $4,000 to $6,000 monthly. In 18 months, she'd spent over $89,000. But it got worse. I checked her personal credit report, something I could legally do since we were married and had joint financial accounts. She had 3 credit cards I didn't know about. Visa, $24,000 balance, maxed out. MasterCard, $18,000 balance, maxed out. American Express, $31,000 balance, maxed out. Total, $73,000 in secret debt. Combined with the $89,000 she'd spent on our joint card, Rebecca had accumulated $162,000 in debt over the past 18 months. And I was the only one making payments. I sat in my home office that night, looking at spreadsheets of debt, reading Instagram messages about how Chad was going to build his fitness empire while living off Rebecca's divorce settlement. Neither of them had any idea what was coming. The next morning, I called my attorney. His name was Marcus Levine, and he'd handled my business contracts when I'd done some freelance consulting work years ago. Smart, aggressive, and absolutely ruthless when he needed to be. Marcus, I need to file for divorce. What happened? I told him everything. The affair with Chad, the Instagram messages, the $162,000 in debt Rebecca had been hiding. Marcus let out a low whistle. That's substantial debt. Can I protect myself from it? Colorado is an equitable distribution state, not community property. That means the court divides assets and debts fairly, not necessarily equally. If we can prove she incurred that debt fraudulently or for non-marital purposes, we can argue she should bear sole responsibility. The affair counts as non-marital purpose. Absolutely. Especially if we can trace the spending directly to her relationship with this Chad person. Hotels, dinners, gifts, new clothes to impress him. All of that supports our case. What about the house? How much equity? We bought it for $420,000 8 years ago. It's worth about $650,000 now. We owe $280,000 on the mortgage. So about $370,000 in equity. That'll likely be split. But if she's taking on $162,000 in debt, that comes out of her share. I did the math. Half of $370,000 was $185,000. Minus $162,000 in debt was $23,000. Rebecca would walk away from our 12-year marriage with $23,000 and a boyfriend who thought he was getting a meal ticket. File the papers, I said. One more thing, Marcus said. These messages where Chad talks about Rebecca getting money from the divorce and supporting his business dreams. Save all of that. If he's planning to live off marital assets, that strengthens our argument that the debt should be hers alone. I've got screenshots of everything. Good man. But I wasn't done planning yet. That afternoon, I called a private investigator. Her name was Monica Santos, came highly recommended, specialized in infidelity cases. Mr. Julian, she said when I met her at her office. What can I do for you? My wife is having an affair with her personal trainer. I need documentation. For the divorce? For the divorce, and for something else. I explained my plan. Monica smiled. That's creative. Possibly unethical. Definitely satisfying. Can you do it? I can document the affair. Absolutely. Photos, video, timeline of their meetings. Everything you need for court. I need more than that. I need financial information on Chad Brennan. His business, his income, his debts. Everything. That's trickier. Some of that information is public record, but some isn't. Get what you can. Monica started surveillance that week. Within 10 days, she had everything it needed. Photos of Rebecca and Chad together at hotels, restaurants, his apartment. Video of them kissing in parking lots. A detailed timeline showing they'd been meeting consistently for over a year. But more importantly, she had information on Chad's financial situation. His personal training business was barely profitable. He made about $38,000 last year, mostly from gym clients who paid $60 to $80 per session. His online coaching program that he kept mentioning in messages to Rebecca didn't exist yet. Just an Instagram page with 2,400 followers and a lot of aspirational posts. He rented a small apartment in Capitol Hill for $1,400 a month. Drove a leased BMW that cost him $580 monthly. Had about $15,000 in credit card debt of his own. Chad Brennan wasn't building a fitness empire. He was a struggling personal trainer with more debt than assets, dreaming about the lifestyle upgrade that Rebecca's divorce settlement would provide. He had no idea he wasn't getting an upgrade. He was getting an anchor. I filed for divorce on October 15th. Rebecca was served at home while I was at work. She called me immediately, crying. Julian, what is this? Divorce papers? Why would you do this? I know about Chad. Silence. I know about the affair. I know about the hotels. I know about everything. Rebecca. It's not what you think. I read your Instagram messages. All of them. I know exactly what it is. Her voice changed. Became defensive. You went through my private messages? You left your laptop open. Your messages were right there. That's a violation of my privacy. And sleeping with your personal trainer for over a year is a violation of our marriage. I'd say we're even. Julian, please. We can work through this. I made a mistake. I'll end things with Chad. We can go to counseling. I'm not interested in counseling. I'm interested in ending this marriage and moving on with my life. You can't just throw away 12 years. I'm not throwing it away. You already did that when you started sleeping with Chad. She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. Fine. You want a divorce? You'll give me half of everything. The house, your retirement account, all of it. Actually, I won't. Colorado law says assets and debts are divided equitably. And you've got $162,000 in debt, Rebecca. Another silence. Longer this time. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the $89,000 you spent on our joint credit card over the past 18 months. Hotels with Chad, dinners, clothes, that weekend in Breckenridge. Plus the $73,000 you owe on 3 secret credit cards I found when I pulled your credit report. You pull my credit report. I'm your husband. I'm legally allowed to. And what I found was fascinating. You've been living way beyond your means, hiding debt, and spending marital funds on an affair. Those credit cards are my business. And they'll be your responsibility in the divorce. My attorney is arguing that you incurred that debt fraudulently for non-marital purposes, which means you get to keep it. That's not fair. What's not fair is working for 17 years to build financial security while my wife spends $162,000 on an affair behind my back. I hung up before she could respond. Her attorney, a woman named Patricia Chung, called Marcus 2 days later. They had a conference call. Marcus put it on speaker so I could listen. My client is willing to settle amicably, Patricia said. Standard division. Half the house equity, half the retirement accounts, split the debt 50-50. Your client incurred $162,000 in debt over 18 months while conducting an extramarital affair, Marcus replied. We have documentation showing those debts were incurred for non-marital purposes. Hotels, gifts for her boyfriend, personal expenses that had nothing to do with the household. That's a reach. It's documented fact. I have credit card statements showing charges at hotels on the same dates my investigator photographed, Mrs. Julian and Mr. Brennan checking in together. I have receipts for expensive clothing purchased right before their dates. This isn't speculation. Patricia was quiet. What's your client proposing? Mrs. Julian assumes full responsibility for all debt, both the joint credit card and her personal cards. They split the house equity 50-50. Mr. Julian keeps his retirement accounts, which predate the marriage and have been funded separately. Clean break. She'd be taking on $162,000 in debt and walking away with less than $200,000. That's not equitable. What's not equitable is Mr. Julian paying off debt his wife incurred while cheating on him. She made choices. Now she lives with the consequences. I'll discuss it with my client. Patricia called back 3 days later. My client won't agree to assume all the debt. She'll take 60% if your client takes 40%. Marcus looked at me. I shook my head. Not acceptable. Marcus said, your client spent that money. She can pay it back. Then we'll see you in court. Looking forward to it. The discovery process was brutal. Rebecca had to turn over all her financial records, credit card statements, phone records, everything. What emerged was a clear pattern. Every time she'd met Chad, which Monica's investigation had documented thoroughly, there were corresponding charges. New workout clothes before training sessions. Dinners at expensive restaurants afterward. Hotels on nights. She told me she was at group workouts. She'd spent $89,000 of our joint money and $73,000 of her own credit, making herself look successful and affluent to Chad, making him believe she was the total package he kept mentioning in his messages. Meanwhile, I've been paying our mortgage, our utilities, our real expenses, while she played pretend with money we didn't have. The deposition was scheduled for early December. Rebecca had to answer questions under oath about her spending, her affair, everything. Patricia tried to paint it as Rebecca finding happiness after a loveless marriage. Marcus destroyed that narrative with the Instagram messages showing Rebecca and I had been fine until she started training with Chad. Then Marcus asked the question I've been waiting for. Mrs. Julian, in your messages with Mr. Brennan, you discussed your plans after divorcing your husband. Can you tell me what those plans were? Rebecca shifted uncomfortably. I don't recall specifically. Marcus pulled out printed screenshots. Let me refresh your memory. On September 19th, you wrote, once the divorce is final and I get my settlement, we can start our life together. What did you mean by that? I just meant we could be together openly. And on September 23rd, Mr. Brennan wrote, once you get what you're entitled to from the divorce, we'll be set. I can finally focus on building my online business full time. What was your understanding of that message? Rebecca's attorney objected, but the damage was done. It sounds like you and Mr. Brennan were planning to use marital assets to fund his business ventures. Is that accurate? That's not. We were just talking about the future. A future where you'd leave your husband, take half of everything, and support your boyfriend's dreams. Rebecca's face went red. We were in love. People in love make plans. People in love also don't usually finance those plans with money from the spouse they're betraying. The deposition lasted 3 hours. By the end, Rebecca looked exhausted and defeated. Patricia called Marcus the next day. My client will agree to assume 75% of the debt. Full amount or no deal. Marcus said, that's unreasonable. That's reality. She spent it. She pays it. We went back and forth for 2 more weeks. Finally, on December 20th, Patricia called with a final offer. My client will assume the full $162,000 in debt. In exchange, she wants 55% of the house equity instead of 50%. Marcus looked at me. I did the math. 55% of $370,000 was $203,500. Minus the $162,000 debt was $41,500. Rebecca would walk away with $41,500 from a 12-year marriage and $162,000 in debt to pay off. Deal, I said. We signed a settlement agreement on January 8th. Rebecca got $203,500 from the house sale, assumed full responsibility for $162,000 in debt, and walked away with her personal belongings. I kept my retirement accounts, my salary, and my financial stability. The house sold in February. Nice property in a desirable neighborhood, priced right. We closed on March 3rd. I wrote Rebecca a check for $203,500 and never spoke to her again. But the story doesn't end there. Because I've been planning something special for Chad. Remember all those Instagram messages where Chad talked about Rebecca being successful and wealthy? where he planned to live off her divorce settlement while building his fitness empire. I'd saved all of them, and I'd had Monica investigate one more thing, whether Chad had any creditors. Turns out he did. That $15,000 in credit card debt he'd stopped making payments 6 months ago was already in collections, which meant his creditors would be very interested to know he was about to come into money via his girlfriend. I compiled everything into a package. Screenshots of Chad and Rebecca's messages discussing using her divorce settlement to fund his business. Monica's financial investigation showing Chad's debts. Evidence that Chad knew Rebecca was married when they started their affair. Then I sent it to Chad's creditors. Not directly. That would be harassment. But Colorado has a law allowing creditors to garnish assets from third parties if they can prove fraudulent transfer, which is exactly what Chad and Rebecca had been planning. I made sure Chad's creditors had all the evidence they needed to pursue both of them. The first collection notice arrived at Rebecca's new apartment in April. I know because a mutual friend, someone who'd sided with me after learning about the affair, told me. Rebecca had moved in with Chad, thinking they'd live off her settlement while he built his business. She'd paid off about $40,000 of her debt immediately, leaving her with $122,000 still owed and about $163,500 in cash. Then Chad's creditors came after her. They filed a claim arguing that Rebecca had knowingly entered into a relationship with Chad while he was in debt, had planned to use marital assets to pay his debts and fund his business, and was therefore liable as a third party who'd facilitated fraudulent transfer. It was a stretch legally, but it was enough to freeze her bank accounts while the courts sorted it out. Rebecca called me, hysterical. "What did you do? My accounts are frozen. I can't access my money." I didn't do anything. Sounds like Chad's creditors are doing their job. You sent them information about us. You told them about the settlement. I provided factual information to parties who had a legal interest. That's not illegal. This is vindictive. This is consequences. You and Chad plan to use marital assets to pay his debts and fund his business. His creditors have a right to know that. We never actually did it. The planning is enough. Intent matters. She was crying now. I can't pay my bills. I can't access my accounts. What am I supposed to do? You could try asking Chad for help. After all, you left your marriage for him. She hung up. The legal battle over Rebecca's frozen accounts took 3 months. Eventually, the court ruled that the creditors couldn't seize her divorce settlement since the fraudulent transfer hadn't actually occurred. They just planned it. But the legal fees cost Rebecca another $18,000. And the damage to her relationship with Chad was already done. According to my friend who'd stayed in touch with some of Rebecca's former coworkers, Chad and Rebecca's relationship imploded about a month after her accounts were frozen. Turns out Chad wasn't interested in a girlfriend who came with $122,000 in debt, frozen bank accounts, and legal problems. He'd wanted a wealthy woman who'd fund his dreams. Instead, he got someone whose financial situation was worse than his own. He kicked her out of his apartment in June. Rebecca moved into a studio in Aurora. Had to take a second job as a waitress on weekends to cover her debt payments and rent. The successful, beautiful, financially secure woman Chad thought he was getting didn't exist. She'd been a fantasy funded by my income and her credit cards. And when that fantasy collapsed, so did their relationship. Chad's Instagram went quiet after that. No more inspirational posts about grinding and winning. No more shirtless photos with captions about success. Just silence. I heard through another mutual friend that he'd gotten a second job managing a smoothie shop. His fitness empire never materialized. His online coaching program never launched. He was just a guy who destroyed a marriage for a fantasy that evaporated the moment reality arrived. As for me, I sold the house and moved into a modern condo in Reno. 1 bedroom, city views, a fresh start. Work was good. I got promoted to principal architect in May. Came with a $35,000 raise and stock options. I started dating again about 8 months after the divorce finalized. Nothing serious at first. Just coffee dates, dinners, getting comfortable being single again. Then I met Sophie. She was a pediatric nurse, smart and compassionate, with her own career and her own financial independence. She didn't need me to fund her lifestyle. She had her own. We took it slow. I told her about Rebecca, about the affair, about the debt. Sophie listened without judgment. "Do you still love her?" she asked. "No. I love who I thought she was." The real Rebecca spent 12 years lying to me. What did you learn from it? That trust needs to be verified. That financial transparency matters. That someone who truly loves you doesn't hide $162,000 in debt while planning to leave you for someone else. Sophie nodded. Smart lessons. About a year after the divorce, I ran into Chad at a coffee shop in Cap Hill. He was there with what looked like a new client, going over meal plans. He saw me. His face went pale. I walked over. Chad, right? I'm Julian, Rebecca's ex-husband. He stood up awkwardly. Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to thank you. Thank me. For doing me a favor. You show me who Rebecca really was. Save me from wasting more years on someone who didn't value what we had. I smiled. Hope you enjoyed the $162,000 in debt that came with her. His jaw tightened. That's not. Oh, it's exactly fair. You thought you were winning. Thought you were getting a successful, wealthy woman who'd fund your dreams. I leaned in slightly. You got exactly what you deserved. Hope the Instagram likes were worth it. I walked away without waiting for a response. Because that was the truth. Chad had bragged about winning. Had sent me a message through a mutual friend after Rebecca moved in with him. Something about, may the best man win, and how he'd claimed the prize. He thought he'd won Rebecca. Thought he'd stolen a rich man's wife. Instead, he'd inherited a financial disaster and a relationship built on lies and fantasy. The prize he'd claimed turned out to be worthless the moment he actually had to deal with the reality of it. 2 years after the divorce, I'm in a healthy relationship with Sophie. We split expenses fairly. We're transparent about finances. We communicate honestly. Everything Rebecca and I didn't have. Rebecca, last I heard, is still paying off her debt. Still working 2 jobs. Still single after Chad left her. Chad is still a personal trainer. Still posting occasionally on Instagram. Still dreaming about success while working at a smoothie shop on weekends. They both thought they were trading up. Thought they were getting something better than what they had. Instead, they got each other. 2 people living in a fantasy funded by debt and destroyed the moment reality caught up. As for that $89,000 debt collection notice I mentioned in the title, that was the amount Rebecca owed on our joint credit card when we divorced. The amount she'd spent on hotels, dinners, clothes, and maintaining the illusion that she was wealthy enough to support Chad's dreams. I made sure Chad knew about it. Made sure he knew exactly how much debt came with the woman he'd bragged about winning. And I made sure he understood that he'd won nothing but problems. Chad bragged about winning her. Then I sent him the bill. And he realized the prize he'd claimed was going to cost him everything.